In 2013, China unveiled a grand vision, the Belt and Road Initiative, or BRI. This ambitious project, reminiscent of the ancient Silk Road, aimed to connect Asia, Africa, and Europe through a network of roads, railways, ports, and pipelines. The goal was twofold. First, China sought to reshape global trade routes, placing itself at the center of this new world order. Second, it aimed to establish itself as a leading economic power, rivaling the West. The BRI initially enjoyed significant success. Countries welcomed Chinese investment, eager to modernize their infrastructure and boost their economies. In Kenya, new railways significantly reduced travel times, boosting trade and tourism. Pakistan and Sri Lanka saw an increase in trade activities, fueled by Chinese-funded ports and highways. Over 140 countries, including developed nations like Italy and Russia, signed on, highlighting the global appeal of China's ambitious project. The sheer scale of the BRI was staggering, with trillions of dollars earmarked for projects around the world. China presented itself as a benevolent partner, offering loans and expertise to developing nations eager for progress. For a while, the BRI seemed like a win-win situation, promising economic growth for all involved. The world watched with a mix of awe and apprehension as China's global influence rapidly expanded. However, beneath the surface of this grand project, cracks began to appear. Concerns grew about the sustainability of the debt being accumulated by participating countries. The environmental impact of these massive infrastructure projects also came under scrutiny, with reports of deforestation, habitat destruction, and pollution raising alarm bells. The initial euphoria surrounding the BRI began to wane as its true costs became increasingly apparent. As BRI projects progressed, a troubling pattern emerged. Many countries, particularly those with weak economies, found themselves burdened with unsustainable levels of debt to China. This led to accusations of debt trap diplomacy, where China was accused of intentionally lending more money than countries could repay, ultimately seizing control of strategic assets when they defaulted. Sri Lanka became a prime example of this. Unable to repay its debts, Sri Lanka was forced to lease its strategically important Hambantota port to a Chinese company for 99 years. Similarly, Zambia lost control of its national airport to Chinese creditors. These incidents fueled concerns that China was using the BRI to expand its geopolitical influence, potentially at the expense of participating nations' sovereignty. Environmental concerns also mounted. In Indonesia, vast swathes of rainforest were cleared for nickel mines, crucial for China's electric vehicle industry. A dam project in Myanmar, financed by China, was halted after protests over the displacement of local communities and the risk of catastrophic flooding. China's pledge to stop funding overseas coal plants was broken, with new projects being approved in several countries, further contributing to global carbon emissions. These environmental and social costs tarnished the BRI's image. What was once touted as a path to prosperity increasingly resembled a form of neo-colonialism, with China extracting resources and leaving behind a trail of environmental damage and economic instability. The international community began to take notice, and criticism of the BRI grew louder. Alongside these concerns about debt and environmental damage, the BRI faced mounting criticism for poorly planned and executed projects. Many projects became white elephants, failing to generate the promised economic benefits and leaving countries saddled with debt for infrastructure they didn't need or couldn't use. Montenegro's $1 billion highway to nowhere became emblematic of these failures. The highway, intended to connect the country's coast to Serbia, was left unfinished due to financial difficulties, leaving Montenegro with a massive debt burden and an unusable infrastructure project. In Africa, some Chinese-built facilities, from factories to hospitals, stood idle, lacking trained personnel to operate them. As the BRI's shortcomings became undeniable, an international backlash emerged. Italy, a founding member of the initiative, withdrew from the project, citing concerns about Chinese influence. Kenya began investigating past contracts, scrutinizing their terms and looking for potential renegotiation opportunities. Even Pakistan, a close ally of China, started demanding loan renegotiations and greater transparency in BRI projects. The Western world, initially caught off guard by the scale and ambition of the BRI, began to mobilize a response. The United States launched the Build Back Better World initiative, later renamed Partnership for Global Infrastructure and Investment, while the European Union unveiled its Global Gateway strategy. These initiatives aimed to offer developing countries an alternative to Chinese investment, focusing on transparency, sustainability, and high labor and environmental standards. Faced with mounting criticism and setbacks, China has not abandoned the BRI. Instead, it has begun to adapt its strategy, shifting its focus from large-scale infrastructure projects to smaller, more targeted investments, particularly in digital infrastructure. This new phase of the BRI, dubbed the Digital Silk Road, aims to leverage China's technological prowess in areas like 5G, artificial intelligence, and e-commerce. China is also attempting to address the environmental concerns surrounding the BRI, promoting green technologies and sustainable development practices. It has pledged to make the BRI greener, investing in renewable energy projects and promoting environmental protection measures. However, skepticism remains about whether these pledges will translate into concrete actions on the ground. Despite its efforts to adapt, the BRI faces an uncertain future. The initial euphoria has dissipated, replaced by a more sober assessment of its costs and benefits. The international community is now more wary of China's intentions and is actively seeking alternatives to its model of development. The BRI, once hailed as a game changer, is now just one player in a multipolar world, its future shaped by the choices of all those involved.